First of all, I would love to thank all of you for having me here today. I would look forward to meeting many of you. I've already met some, and it's always so important to me as a part of my work and my commitment to rare disease, to meet the people who provide me with all the information that I need to try to develop treatments for all of you. So with that, I will give you an update on where we are and some of the efforts that we are continuing as we seek to learn more and understand more about Lc-Faod. The one thing that I want to emphasize on behalf of the industry, and ask anyone in the room, treatments and research don't stop until there's a cure. And so our commitment at Ultragenyx, and I'm sure you'll find this, is that the learning never stops, and treatments have to start somewhere, but each additional treatment builds on the knowledge from the one before. And that's why we're continuing the research and making this research available both to the patient community, to the research community, so we're all sharing knowledge. And that's something that's very important to Ultragenyx. I think sometimes there's, an impression within industry that if you keep that information close, that's necessary. But I think if you're truly a patient-focused organization and you're interested in driving science as hard as you can, then we all have to be partners together to collect information so that we can continue to understand how treatments are working, and most importantly, where they're not, and how the next treatment and the next one after that can become better and better. And as I said, treatments don't stop, research doesn't stop until there's a cure. Well, I don't know how to outdo the bio that was given on me, so that's somebody who looks like me. So yeah, we'll skip over that. The one thing I will say is that I am a developmental neuropsychologist by training. So where I started my training was working with kids who had cognitive, metabolic, bone, muscle health issues. So I think that's really where I draw a lot of my work from, and that is part of my job that I love the most. So I didn't have to give that up. So I'm very fortunate, and I still have the opportunity to work with patients and families, but also to do research. Ultragenyx, who are we? Well, we were founded in 2010 by Lc-Faod. Some of you have probably met him at some point over the years. I have been working with him since 2011 at Ultragenyx, but when I was at Genzyme, I met him probably, and I just saw a picture on my phone from 2003. And it's sort of funny, I didn't realize we had known each other quite that long. So we're both obviously very passionate about rare disease. And I've always been in rare disease and will always be in rare disease, because I think that once you have the opportunity to realize that you can impact and can develop treatments for people who, for decades, were given the answer, we think it's this, and there's nothing out there, and we could change that, and that's the goal. We are headquartered in Nevada. I live about 20 minutes from there. When I joined, we were less than 20 employees, and now we're at 1,300. We are still based in Nevada, but we also have an office in San Francisco that's closer to the airport, as well as one in Boston, and then global offices in Europe and Latin America. And we also have folks on the ground in Canada. And so we are at the very heart of what we do is partner with the rare disease community to make sure that the drugs that we seek to develop are as good as they can be and address the things that patients and their families feel are the most important. So we are partners in this journey together. Our commitments involve advancing research. And that's not just the research that we've done, it's research that we'll continue to do. I remember the first time I met Dr. Buckley, and I can't believe it was 2013, but a lot has happened since then. And of course, as you know, he's been instrumental in all of that. We have and will continue to engage with patients and caregivers, family members, because it's so important for us to understand again what a drug does, what it doesn't do, and how the next one can be better. So we do the interventional research, we also do the observational research. And so what that means is that we are as committed to understanding the disease as we are to the drug development and finding out what the treatment does. So we need to know what it doesn't do, because that's what makes any treatment better. And again, treatments don't stop until there's a cure. So we partner with patients, we figure out what the unmet need is. So there's a lot of palliative care out there. I'm sure you have vials and vials and boxes of elixirs that people have given you to try over the years. Some of these do something and some of them don't. But that's all part of learning about how to manage a disease, particularly a disease that nobody knows anything about. We want to empower all patient communities to navigate the system. I can't imagine how difficult it is to have 20 different doctors, but not one person who is the central point of care. And how many times you have to tell your story. And that's exhausting, and it can also keep you from getting the optimal treatment. So one of the things that we seek to do is to help you integrate all that information so that you have an easier path. And we do develop research programs, particularly my team, to make sure that the voice of the patient community is reflected in the research that we do. I think one of the hardest things that you can do is to participate in a clinical trial or a research study, or become part of post-commercial, and you don't really understand when you're taking that drug what it's going to do for you. And so if we engage with the patient communities, we figure out what's most important. What do you want from the treatment? What aspect of all those different boxes and elixirs that may or may not work? What aspect is most burdensome to you and to your families, and how we can incorporate that into the drug development process, so that ultimately whatever treatment we develop is one that you understand exactly what it would do to you or to your child, so that you can make an informed decision, so that your physician can make an informed decision about whether or not this is something that can help you. And that, I think, is the most important thing, because there are a lot of, for many different, obviously, disorders, there are a lot of products out there, and it's like, I don't really understand all this stuff that comes in the box. But at the end of the day, it's like, is this going to help me? Is this going to address the aspect of a particular disorder that is most important to me? So an update on our Lc-Faod Odyssey program. So, oh, is that it? That's the last one. She can make some slides. I'm terrible, absolutely terrible. The one thing that stands out to me about the Odyssey project is looking at that number of visits and how many clinical documents were collected as part of that project. How many lab results and vitals and diagnostic information, because what that is the reflection of everything that you all get through to get the answer. Whether it's, treatment of symptoms, trying to get a diagnosis, trying to get folks to understand your diagnosis, and then trying to see 15 different people to manage the 15 different issues that are going on in your life right now. So 47 patients enrolled, 37 of them live records. They will be presented next month and informed, and have already been presented this year at ACMG and this far. And the important thing about that is that this particular project follows you through your journey in the healthcare system. The study has completed. It's closed as of June, but those particular accounts for those folks who did enroll in this, they are still open and do still have access to those medical records, although now that it's closed, no additional records can be added. We are currently enrolling at the Lc-Faod disease monitoring program. So this is a long-term perspective observational study. It's intended to collect information. When we do develop these disease monitoring programs, they serve multiple purposes. So we make a commitment in order to get a drug approved faster. We make a commitment to collect long-term information, and then but we also study people who are not taking a particular treatment. And that's why it's not a drug monitoring program, it's a disease monitoring program. So it's a commitment to those folks who are in the trial to look at their long-term progress. It's a commitment to those folks who are not in the trial but are getting on treatment, so that they can look at their before and after. And it's a commitment to those who are not, to follow their disease progression over time, so that at any point in this, they know exactly how they're doing relative to folks who are on treatment, and those who are in the trial, looking at how they're doing compared to those who are treated later, and those that aren't treated at all. And then we are still committed to the approval, getting triazolam approved outside of the US for the treatment of patients with long-chain fatty acid oxidation disorders. We have several sites in Europe, there's sites in the UK, and in the Middle East. So, for the DMP, this lady is the DMP guru, and yeah, done. She's clearly younger than I am, so I'm going to squint, or I'm going to wing it, one or the other. So we have the vision. It's not a traditional registry, as I said. This is a particular way of collecting information from patients, so that they can, and caregivers, so that they can follow what they are doing over time with various disease to manage disease. So we can get an idea of
like
how folks are doing,
right here where you just
whether they're
the
doing it or not.
monitor,
How
and then I manually when it gets up there.
Right underneath the
there may be new boxes of
So you can see
new
that that's really
filters. You may, want to know how that is affecting your health state over time. So we're
When I do
committed
that,
to
I'm gonna
collecting
capture the people on
clean
there
clinical
on
data.
that first row.
And I think that what that allows us to do is better
Underneath the
understand
screen.
how patients are presenting. What it allows you to do is say, this is who I
It's
am.
just because of the camera. Once
These
I
are all
like if I
folks
go
I'm
down,
seeing,
it's
right?
gonna capture
And
maybe
this
that
is what my test results suggest
lady's
that
head right there with the
people
glasses.
Can't do, is provide you with some information that you can give to your physician, so you don't have to keep telling that story all over
I
again.
think
And you can make the most of that limited time that you have in the office with that physician. We're currently enrolling 200 patients in the US and Canada, and 11 from 15 sites are currently open. We look at patients who have been treated in clinical trials or through an investigator sponsored study or expanded access. We also look at those patients who started on treatment after Jolly became available. And then we have new patients coming in who have never been on Jolly, so part of that commitment to study the disease, not just the drug that we've developed. And so we do have a commitment, as I mentioned before, sometimes the best place to say, to regulatory authorities that we're committed to looking at long-term safety and efficacy is to honor their commitments through the disease monitoring program. And what that allows us to do is also collect real world data, so that we have a bigger sample of patients where we can look at treatment outcomes. So, as I mentioned, 7 sites are active, and 15 is the total number that we're looking for, 200 patients total. Right now we have 55, 61 tests. And as I mentioned before, we do present this data. If you have interest, please see our booth out there or Lisa for more information about the DMP. You can see here where the clinics are that are actively enrolling, and those that will be opening by the end of the year. the study does involve coming into the clinic, but also remote areas by telehealth. That will make it more convenient and travel costs. With all the caveats that companies have to put on that are covered, as well as the cost of the assessments that are done as part of the study. Yes. Okay. So one of the things that's evolved over time, I think, is really how we are working with the patient community. I think, in the beginning, it was all about what does this disease look like? How does it impact patients and their families? And then we have the ability to say, okay, this is what Lc-Faod is. Here's how it changes over time. Here's how it impacts how a child lives their day-to-day life. Because that, I think, is the most important thing. If you're making a commitment to take a trial or to take a treatment, it really has to change the way you live your life. And I think for parents, a lot of it is about functional independence and, knowing that that child is not going to be in danger if they're at school or if they're outside of your eyesight, right? That they have the ability to advocate for themselves. And that they have the ability to navigate the world outside of mom and dad's eyes. And that's hugely important. We want to understand the differences between the 6 different types, and then how management of the disease, whether that's with a commercial product or not, affects how patients are failing to function. This particular type of program has value for multiple stakeholders. It helps your doctors figure out where you've been, and so they can help figure out where you're going to go. And I think that we can all agree that's really frustrating. To be told you have to go to a different type of doctor to handle a different aspect of your disorder, and you get the blank stare, right? You have to start all over again. And so having that information about where you've been, how you've been treated, and how you look compared to others who have the same type of disorder helps put a name and a face. It helps with your care and management, and also helps with care and management of the next person who comes in the door. So maybe they won't go there, and maybe they won't have to experience the frustration that all of you have had. So you get to see how you are doing over time, and better understand where you've been, where you are now, and by looking at others where you're trying to take you. It allows us to figure out where those gaps are, what are treatments doing and not doing, how can the next one be made better. And then for people who are interested in commercial therapy and getting approved treatment, helping give insurers the information that they need to help you get it paid for. So how can you stay informed? The best way is to call Jerry Buckley. What? And oh, Jerry. And you can also go to ultragenyx.com. We've got some great people on our advocacy team. Galen, where are you? And there she is in the back of the room. And she's a resident disease expert, mostly a patient expert. Somebody who understands the journey that you all have been on, and the work that she does helps to make that journey a little more. There's a way that academics can. So stop by our table, or people have interest in the DMP trial recruitment.
Steve has both.
Ellen, back for this lady that makes really complicated slides. Yeah. Questions. Oh, okay. No, any questions of one if it's related to this or not? Oh, we got one. Gonna take her.
Hey there, I was just curious how often you typically would want to see somebody if they join the program.
So So we are trying to stay aligned to like standard of care, not be overly burdensome. So we look for an annual visit in clinic is our hope. But if that's too challenging, we do provide travel support and things like that, but we can also do it by telehealth, and we can order your labs through your local provider and things like that. But we look to do once a year in person, and then we for 10 years in total if you're interested. But you can, withdraw consent at any time. There's no consequence or anything like that.
And then, did I understand correctly that you don't have to be on Dojolvi? My son Jake is on MCT.
Absolutely. This is, so we are an all comers, I like to call it. We just want to learn from you and we want to give back to you. So, does not matter if you're on Dojolvi, if you're on MCT, if you're on something different or nothing. And that can change throughout your participation in the trial as well. So you can, whatever is best for you, we do not interfere in any way.
All right, great, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
For the DMP study, would you mind reviewing what cities there are? Because there was a slide I just didn't catch.
And it's a work in progress, I'll say, but see, this is where we. Yeah. There's kind of a hole in the middle of the map, I know, right? So we're looking to add a few sites, the purple site there in Salt Lake, that's Dr. Longo, he's almost open. And I think we're looking at Texas and a few others. I'm also open to any ideas or suggestions. I know some folks actually have intentionally enrolled not in their city, right? They want to be, it's access to an absolute expert, and we, facilitate the travel as much as we're able. So is there someone missing though? I'd be happy to talk to you then.
So
Where we go? Okay.
Hey, could you talk a little bit more about the pregnancy cohort, specifically the carriers piece of that?
Yeah, so we are looking at unaffected women who become pregnant and maybe trying to monitor as much as we can. I believe we've enrolled one so far, and been able to follow how she did through pregnancy, and the child was born a few months ago, actually. So that's just part of our learning, and we were able to get this drug approved quickly, which was important, but we weren't able to study every different type of patient. So we are collecting all the data we possibly can and aim to publish that when we have a little bit more. So that child, I believe, is just a few months old. And we're also studying pregnant women who are affected and continue to take or MCT oil or anything like that for pregnancy. I know that's a stressful time to the delivering alone is a big effort, right? So we think there's a lot to learn. Emil, our CEO, always says that there's at least one accepted fact about every rare disease that might not be true. So we are humbly out there searching and looking to see what we can learn.
So I'm just gonna say, if this was an easy trip for you to get to Denver, it started right now, hopefully opening in 2023, but probably more likely 2024.
All set, any other questions?
Yes, so you, I think kind of in the slide alluded to that patient would kind of be able to see results, or is that something that's available now? Is that something that's being worked on, and like kind of how is that going to happen?
It has been one of the biggest challenges, to be honest, regulatory and everything like that. So in July, we hit the 25th patient day in the city for 1 year. So in July, we initiated the process now to start developing the reports. They're going to be called annual individualized patient data reports. I'm not going to say I love the name, it's what it is. So we're working on developing those now. That process is pretty cumbersome, but before the end of the year, my aim is to have the personalized data report available to everyone in the study as of today. And then that would be updated annually. I hope to make it more than that, but right now it'll be annually, and it will be your data or your child's data, over time, if they participated in the previous trials, we will anchor back to that data as well, so that we